Yeah, my name is John Jordan. I'm one of the construction site managers here on the Kearl project. I manage mining and earthworks. I just want to thank you for this opportunity to share a story, well actually a tragedy, that I experienced a number of years ago, approximately 2004 to 2006 on a prior project. This was the Sakhalin project. It was on Sakhalin Island, which is, if you're familiar with geography, it's north of Japan, very remote, subarctic, very miserable conditions to try to do a project of that magnitude. It was 250,000 barrel a day oil and gas plant, had 800 million cubic feet a day of gas injection. So quite a large project, multi-billion-dollar project. But this incident or this tragedy that I experienced kind of helps define what makes a project a success, because we all in construction get judged on in different areas on what makes a project a success, namely budget, schedule, quality, and of course safety.
We had accumulated over 5 million man-hours of safe work behaviors. We had observation intervention programs going, a true baseline of caring for each other, even through the Russian culture. And we were very pleased on where we were from a safety behavioral consideration.
Over the winter, there's a lot of snow accumulation in Sakhalin. In April of 2006, there's an operator that was tasked with removing snow from one of the laydown areas, and he was just moving snow throughout the day as a practice, because he was used to just operating small equipment, and now he stepped up to a 966 loader. As he was moving snow, his supervisor was watching him and monitoring. Then there was a sudden request to go and move some material from another area of the plant. So he was instructed to go over to the location, move the material, and then come back to the area where he was removing snow.
So as the loader was finishing the removal of snow, you have to visualize the road, which the road is about 1 meter to 1.5 meters tall with gravel because of the ground conditions. Very similar to what we have in Kearl and other places of the world. And as the loader finished, he went to come up on the road and looking left and right for traffic like he should be doing. And there was a car approaching to the right, so it had his full attention. And as he pulled up on the road, kind of looking right and the bucket obscuring really his vision forward, he made an extraordinarily wide turn. Why he did it, we'll never know. But he did not see Mr. Goker. Mr. Goker never heard the loader approaching from behind.
Of course, the operator was devastated. I got the call on the radio that we had a man down. I didn't know the situation, so I raced over to the clinic. And when I got to the clinic, I saw our site doctor, and he was frantic. I could see the terror on his face. I knew the situation was not good.
When I received the call over the radio that there was a person that was struck by a piece of equipment, of course I responded to the location, as along with the doctors and the other paramedics. When I arrived, I saw that it was Mr. Goker, and that really touched me because I had just talked to him that morning.
I was in Tokyo, Japan, in meetings with our partners, Sodako, and I'll never forget the phone call that we've had a very serious accident at site. We don't know how bad he is, but it was very serious, and it just stopped. It just stopped the whole meeting, and I can remember the knot in my stomach and the thinking about immediately, what has happened and what have we done wrong at site with the behaviors that we had in place, with the terrific performance that we had. What happened? And we anxiously waited, and we were getting updates every 15 minutes, and the anticipation just grew. Being hopeful things could be right maybe a broken leg or a broken arm, which would be bad enough in itself, but hoping and praying for the absolute best.
It was not a good scene. He obviously had severe internal injuries, and I guess to make the situation much worse, this gentleman's wife was on site, and she was in the clinic, and she was hysterical, as you would expect. And I can remember, putting my arms around her, trying to console her, and and I was telling her that he's going to be okay. We're going to take care of him. Anyway, the chopper got there, and we got him loaded onto the chopper, and then the chopper left, and we all sat in the clinic there and just waited.
Once we got him in the helicopter and flew him to the hospital, he went into cardiac arrest and perished. And I can remember, it's clear, sitting here talking with you, how devastating that felt.
My name's Dan Duncan. I was the Senior Project Safety Advisor for Sakhalin 1 projects at the time where we lost Sonar in a construction accident. I happened to be at home on leave, departing within the next couple days to head back to the island when I got the call. One of the first things you think is, how could this happen? What could have gone wrong? What could we have done to prevent it? How are our guys handling it? What is happening with his family, with his wife? Sonar worked his whole career, was a professional, retired. He'd served his time, he was due his time off, but he came back and worked another project for a friend just to help him out. And somehow we let him down and he's no longer with us.
I just ask everyone to have respect for vehicles and equipment. Everyone should understand that operators, and particularly in heavy equipment, have large blind spots, and you should always assume that operators and drivers of vehicles can't see you. That's a safe assumption.
As we kept digging into it, we identified some other precautions that we could take in the future, such as the elevation of the bucket while traveling, getting with the manufacturer, doing some more research. What is the recommended best practice for bucket height when traveling? We looked at how we're going to get around the whole site. We established and designated walkways. We got people to walk on the right side of the road. Walk in single file, not 2 or 3 abreast. We even used our security personnel to help get people trained, and getting them walking and thinking about it, crossing at the designated locations. We've even expanded into our spotters. How are we going to, anytime we've got a person on the ground and a piece of equipment, how are we going to manage it? How are we going to protect those people? All became future programs that we developed and passionately shared with others. And that is what we're trying to do here on Kearl. We know, we've lived it. We know how some little things can be combined together and make a life-changing tragic event.
Other practices may include also, when you're getting close to roadways, refrain from using cell phones, MP3 players and all, because you are distracted. You don't look at the traffic that's approaching you. In the wintertime or when it's cold, you wear hoods, and that sometimes obscures your hearing. So if there's something approaching you, you may not be able to hear it very well. Also, when you're crossing a street or an intersection, the hoods do affect your peripheral vision, because your head may turn but the hood remains stationary, so you may not see everything. So these are some of the planning and practices that could have made a difference.
Yeah, there's another personal tragedy associated with this incident, and it involves the project manager for the company that this gentleman worked for. It was a young project manager, and he was nervous about taking on this large project with a major oil company. And this, in fact, was his first time as a manager. So he contacted this gentleman to come out of retirement. This gentleman had retired from the company. But he contacted him and had him come out of retirement to come do one more project. And so when this incident occurred, this young project manager felt totally responsible, because he kept telling me, you know, he wouldn't have been here if I hadn't have twisted his arm and had him come out of retirement. And so it's all my fault. And he came into my office in tears and was quite distraught about that. And so I tried to console him, and I got him to go back to his home country for a couple of weeks to regroup. And he came back, but it still bothered him to the end of the project, because he felt responsible for this gentleman and the result that we witnessed there at site. And
the tragic, the additional tragic news to it was that his wife was also working with Inca as their medical director. And she was there and accompanied him to the hospital, and he perished in her arms. We were very concerned about Mrs. Goker's welfare. And the hospital that Mr. Goker had perished in and where she was in Noglicki. And so I flew to Noglicki and met with Mrs. Goker to bring her back to the job site to clean their room out and take all their possessions back to Istanbul. And I can remember just sitting here talking with you, the feelings of hugging Mrs. Goker in that little Noglicki airport, and both of us just weeping for her loss. And so we escorted her back, and we gave her all the assistance we could. The job site itself was just devastated. We had become a family. So what I'm hopeful of with this video and the testimony of people that really have had their hearts jerked out due to this tragedy, and as you look at this reenactment, that you take a moment to think about situations that you've been in or observed on human equipment interface considerations, and bring those up and identify them. And if you don't feel comfortable in being able to walk in a particular area because you've got zoom booms or forklifts or any kind of equipment that may come in contact with you, please bring that up to your supervisor and take action. Don't walk by it. Don't walk by the circumstances that can create this kind of an event like I did, like John Jordan did, like Isaac Thompson did, and the other 2,500 at that site, because this is what the results is. A widow, a loss of father, a loss of brother, loss of son. Let's work together and get something out of this video. And let's promise each other that we're going to take safety on as a moral responsibility, because that's our obligation. And one of the biggest risks that we always have is the equipment and human interface. Thank you for allowing me to tell this story.